Welcome back, dudes, to another review with us, the Review Bros, and today we're going to be taking a look at Genie Blast Black Magic pre-workout. It says on the side here, fully loaded series, and they are not joking because this is a big boy. And I got it off Amazon, so this could potentially be the most stacked pre-workout on Amazon. Because let's face it, most of the pre's on there are piss poor underdose, you know, not even worth shaking a stick at. This one caught my eye because it's the opposite of that. It seems to be, well, as it says on the side, loaded. So will it actually be worth picking up as we cover the usuals, taste, price, label and effects? Could it really be the best pre on Amazon? And if you are new here, please do hit the like button, sub button, bell icon, because it really does help us out. But today, let's get this one done. Taste and mixability is up first, and it's no different here. We've got bubblegum flavour. Take a look at that. Will it focus? Possibly. So yeah, it comes in like 5 or 6 flavours, I think. I'll flash it up on the screen for you. So you've got a bit of choice, which is good. But yeah, let's see how this one comes together. Give it a shake. Let's have a look. Mixability. I'll be honest, it's obviously not that good. And I say obvious because it's obvious to me, because I've looked at the label. 36 grams, guys. It's 36 grams, which is definitely on the bigger side of what you're ever going to see as a pre-workout serving amount. So with that being said, obviously the mixability is never going to be as good as, say, a 10 gram serving amount pre-workout, because there's just more to mix, and it's no different here. Although I will admit it's done a good job of it, all things considered, but still it's not great. It's very granulated. You can very much taste the thickness of it. So yeah, I'll give it a go on camera obviously and let you know, but yeah, it's a big boy. Yeah, like a chalky powdery essence. And that's with me using a lot of water as well. So I had like 450 ml. Normally pre say you know use 250, 300 ml. So you wouldn't be able to get away with that with this one. I really do think 400 ml is the absolute minimum you could get away with. But yeah, it tastes like bubblegum. It's a nice sweet flavour. It's not sour or anything. I'm not really getting any nastiness come from the back end. So obviously that's a plus side. So yeah, overall, apart from the fact it's a struggle to drink in terms of its consistency, the actual flavour itself is really quite nice. But let me have another sip. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.5 out of 10. As much as I'd love to give it higher, we do have to factor in the consistency, the mixability and all those kind of things, because it does ultimately affect the doability of the pre-workout. Oh, God, am I... Feels like that SpongeBob meme where it's like 12 years later and I'm still drinking it. Jeez. Really is a marathon. Last sip, let's go. Bit bitty and chalky at the bottom. I feel like I'm filming an after credit scene. I've already wrapped up the taste segment. But anyway, bit of froth at the bottom. Okay, that's enough faffing around. Look at this weather, guys. You can definitely tell we're in autumn, can't you? This is just drab and depressing. And we got to put up with this for like, what, 6 months before we see the sun again? How do we put up with it in England, honestly, guys? But at least we don't get tornadoes and giant spiders trying to bite our heads off, so there are some positives. But anyway, weather updates aside, let's talk about the price of this pre-workout. So I got it from Amazon, so obviously anyone can buy from Amazon, so let's go with that. Seems like a fair place to use. You'll find it on there for £32.99 for a 20 serving tub, just a straight down the line 20 serving tub. So if you break that down and do the maths, it comes to £1.65 per the serving. And on our consistent price scale, we're a 5 out of 10 is a bang average price point on the market as we have deemed it for pre-workouts. This actually comes in at a 5 out of 10 on that price scale. So according to our price scale, you know, it's a completely averagely priced pre-workout. So what we've got to work out now is, based on the label, based on the effects, do we concur that it is in fact an average pre-workout, or do we think maybe it's better than average with it being a 36 gram serving amount, because it's definitely on track to being better than average with some size like that. So yeah, let's find out, shall we, as we move through the usual segments of this review. Okay people, let's get into this label then. So let's have a look at it first, because I think it's worth having a little shout out, because I'm assuming that's what the price point is sort of reflecting as well, is the fancy looking tub. It's got to be appreciated, hasn't it? So let's not muck around anymore, let's just get straight down to brass tacks. So like I said earlier, one scoop is 36 grams. Holy moly, holy smokes. So we've got a massive section here, essential amino acids, 5 grams. It's an okay dose, you know. 10 grams would be better, 15 grams would be even better. But 5 is probably the lowest end of what you can get away with to get some sort of benefit. But as I'm sure you know, amino acids, the building blocks of protein, is going to help with your muscle protein synthesis and your recovery. Is it necessary in a pre-workout? Probably not, you know, but they've got it in here nonetheless. So yeah, you can see what the individual aminos are dosed at. But yeah, I personally wouldn't put it in a pre-workout if it was me, because it does take up unnecessary room. So obviously that's eating into that 36 gram serving amount, and it's another thing that you've got to digest, and you know, it's just more aggro. You'd rather just have it as a separate thing you can take whenever you want, you know, intra-workout, post-workout, what have you. You don't necessarily want to be forced into having it as part of your pre-workout. I'm sure you guys probably know, it's worth saying as well for those that don't, but essential amino acids are the ones that, it's in the name, they're essential, so you have to get them from a supplement. Your body doesn't, or food indeed, your body doesn't actually produce them naturally like BCAAs, for example, branched chain amino acids. So the essential ones are at least the important ones, so I'll give them that. Then we move down to the increased physical performance matrix with beta alanine up first, itchy tingly ingredient, 4 grams, good dose, definitely above what we would typically see, which is 3.2 grams, so love to see that. Again, it's rare to see ingredients on Amazon that are being dosed more than clinical. So yeah, we're used to seeing it below clinical. So it's a good start. So yeah, itchy tingly ingredient, helps with your endurance when you take it for long enough and it builds up in your system. It helps to buffer lactic acid. Then we've got creatine monohydrate, a modest 3 grams. You know, we'll let them off the hook. Love to see 5 grams, but 3 grams is still within the realms of what's sort of acceptable to take as a daily dose, 3 to 5 grams, it's somewhere in there. So yeah, it's another ingredient you've got to build up in your system, take consistently over days, weeks, months, and then it helps with your power output, your performance, your pumps. You know, it's a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm sure you know your creatine. It's the most studied, effective supplement that you can take, essentially. So then we move down to trimethylglycine, 2.5 grams, which is just betaine anhydrous, but they've used a fancy chemical name. But again, another jack of all trades type ingredient, and that's going to help with your pumps, power, performance, and yeah, good dose. Then we've got taurine at 1 gram, a nice dose, pretty typical there. Another amino acid, it's going to help with your natural energy production, cognitive function, and pumps, hydration, that kind of thing. And then we've got an ingredient which I don't think I've seen before actually, listed as oxygen, which is the registered version of that ingredient listed there, 400 milligrams. I had to look into it because I've not seen it before, but it should help with antioxidant properties, so anti-inflammation, help with your blood flow, your overall cardiovascular health. So yeah, nice to have it, but it's not going to do anything too crazy for you. It will just sort of work in the background like some of these other ingredients. Then we've got the nitric oxide booster blend, citrulline malate. We don't know the ratio, 2 to 1, 1 to 1, so we have to assume worst case scenario and say 1 to 1, in which case you'd be getting, out of that 9 grams, 4.5 grams of actual pure L-citrulline, which is still respectable, to be fair. You know, it's not too bad. It's still within the clinical realms. So it should help to, like it says there, boost up your nitric oxide production, increase in blood flow, increase in pumps and endurance and all the good stuff that comes off the back of that. Then we've got Vinitrox listed again there as an ingredient. I'm not going to try and word, but yeah, trademarked, purified, potent version of it, 500 milligrams, nice. It should help, again, similar to what I just said, nitric oxide production. It's got antioxidant properties, so it's going to help with inflammation, basically just getting you a nice pump on. And then we've got our good old friend, another registered ingredient, S7 at 50 milligrams, the dose you would typically see. It's a blend of all those ingredients there, and again, it should help with nitric oxide production. So again, we're talking more blood flow, more pumps, more endurance, more vascularity, more nutrient delivery, and more fun in the gym. At least we hope. And then we've got Focus Drive Energy Matrix, L-tyrosine, 1500 milligrams, amino acid, nice dose. Normally only like to see about 1 gram, so they've gone above and beyond here again. Focus, concentration, mood benefits. Then we've got acetyl-L-carnitine, 750 milligrams, an okay dose. We'd like to see a bit higher, but another amino acid that should help with fat burning properties. Also helps with your focus and concentration. and overall energy production and performance in the gym. And then we've got choline bitartrate, 500 milligrams. I'll be absolutely honest, it's probably the worst choline donor there is because it struggles to cross the blood-brain barrier. And yeah, it's not in there at a great dose either. I normally like to see at least a gram when it's in this form. But yeah, it should help to increase acetylcholine levels in the brain, which should then lead to increased focus and athletic performance. Will it do much in that form and at that dose? Don't expect too much. Then we've got Rhodiola rosea extract, 300 milligrams. Nice. It should help with promoting calmness and focus and good mood, and just put you in a good headspace to train. And it's got anti-fatigue benefits as well. Then we got KSM66 ashwagandha root extract, 300 milligrams. An okay dose. Would normally like to see 500-600 milligrams as a daily amount, really, but it is just thrown in the pre-workout. You know, it's not. Again, it's another pre-workout ingredient that I wouldn't perhaps include. I prefer to just take it separately, similar to the EAAs there. But we've got it in here. It's a good form of the ingredient, being the KSM66 version, and it should help. Similar to what I just said there about the Rhodiola rosea, actually, it should help to promote calmness, good mood, and it should also offset harsh effects of any stimulants. I forget the actual term that it's classed as, but yeah, like I said, it's just going to help to offset any negatives from stimulants and yeah, tune you down a little bit. And then we wrap off this blend with vitamin B3, 30 milligrams. Nothing too exciting. Again, it's just going to help with your general bodily function, energy production. Then we move down to Smart Caffeine Complex, where we've got L-theanine up first, amino acid, 300 milligrams. A pretty high dose, especially when we look to the ratio against the caffeine, which I'll move on to shortly. But yeah, it's normally in sleep aids. It promotes calmness, relaxingness, and sleepiness. However, when it's paired with stimulants and nootropics, it actually has a different effect in that it can channel the stimulants and nootropics more into a calm, collected, on the ball productive focus, which is what we're hoping to see here. So hopefully no sleepy time. Then we've got Zynomite, which is 200 milligrams. Nice. It's a very, very mild stimulant. It's going to work in similar ways to caffeine, in the sense of it's going to have similar benefits in that it'll increase your alertness, your energy levels, your focus, and it will pair nicely with the caffeine, actually. Yeah, on its own, it's a very mild stimulant, so it won't mess you up or anything. So don't go thinking it's going to hit the same level as caffeine, because it won't. But then next up, we actually do have caffeine anhydrous at 200 milligrams, which is definitely lower than what we would typically see. I mean, we've got a bit more coming up in a minute, but yeah, 200 milligrams is maybe a little bit more than an energy drink. 2 or 3 instant coffees at home. It's the main source of energy. It's the main stimulant in any pre-workout. It's going to wake you up and get you moving. And then, as I just mentioned, we've got Infinergy, a trademark version again of dicaffeine malate, 100 milligrams. So we should yield an additional 75 milligrams of actual caffeine from that, topping up the total to 275 milligrams, which is about at least 50 milligrams less than the average. You know, you normally see 300 to 350 as a typical caffeine amount in pre-workout, so they've undershot it a little bit here, and then they've obviously picked up that slack with that Zynomite ingredient that I mentioned, which is nice to see. You know, they're doing something a little bit different there, but let's just see how that ties together with the L-theanine. Will it shut it down too much, or will it synergize in perfect harmony? That's what we'll be looking at. Then we've got the electrolyte and cell hydration matrix with potassium, pink Himalayan salt, magnesium. It says it there on the tin. It's going to help with your hydration, get your muscles firing, get your body ticking over as it should be, and get you primed for a good gym session. It's an interesting label, actually. But yeah, I think it's ticking all the boxes that you would typically look for. It's a bit strange in places with some of the ingredients, as I touched on, but overall I think it's more of a hit than a miss. So yeah, let's put it through the paces in the gym, and I'll be back to relay the effects to you shortly. So all that's left to do now is to talk about the effects of Gene Blast Black Magic pre-workout. And I do think I called it Genie Blast in the intro, but let's just pretend I didn't. So anyway, I do think it's a little bit rough around the edges, this pre-workout. You know, there's some questionable things in the label, but I do think overall it surprised me. So let's get into it from the start, shall we? Let's talk about the beta-alanine. Let's get that out of the way. So it's in there at 4 grams, which is definitely above what we would typically see. And it kicks in reasonably well. I'd give it a 6 out of 10 on the tingle scale. You know, I do think that that's partly because it's such a stacked pre-workout in terms of the grammage, at least anyway. It's 36 grams. So I was expecting it to kick in stronger, being that it's in there at 4 grams, but as I say, because it's such a stacked pre-workout, there's a lot competing for digestion, so the beta-alanine doesn't get to take as much of a front seat as it perhaps would have liked to have done. What you get within about 20-30 minutes is obviously the caffeine and the nootropics starting to settle in, but it's a very subtle pre-workout, you know? It doesn't obviously kick in with aggression. I'd say the only thing that you get from a sense of urgency standpoint with this one is the beta-alanine. You know, that sets the scene, gets you moving, lets you know that you're digesting the pre-workout and it's starting to hit you. But from a caffeine standpoint, as I say, very subtle onset, very subtle indeed. Obviously, we're only talking 275 caffeine total, so below what you would typically see. But the energy was nice, it was smooth, it was healthy, it lasts about hour and a half, 2 hours, and it goes. You know, there's no peaks, troughs, crash, jitters, nothing nasty attached to it. It's just a nice, healthy, smooth, subtle amount of energy. But what I will say is it was actually a little bit stronger than what I was expecting. So I don't know if the Dynamite really come in clutch there to help bolster up the caffeine. And I know that some of you probably were a bit concerned about that L-theanine being in there at a dose that's, let's face it, higher than the caffeine. So the ratio was a bit concerning. But I will say, and again, I don't know if it's because of the Dynamite, maybe because of the nootropics all tying in, but I did not feel that the L-theanine was too much here. In fact, I wouldn't even necessarily say that I felt it, you know, it kicked in. If I took this pre-workout, I wouldn't be guessing like, oh yeah, there's L-theanine in that. That feels a bit dull or like a sleep aid. You know, it actually kicked in nicely. So I think that whatever like black magic they've done here, they've obviously done it well. Because yeah, the energy felt solid for me. Obviously, if you're a stim junkie and you take high stim pre's and you smash energy drinks around the clock, this is not going to cut it. But if you are a beginner, intermediate, or you just don't like that high stim type of feeling in general, you'll be fine with this pre-workout. It's actually very nice. And it's one that I would class as a true daily driver. You know, I would say that this definitely feels healthy enough to genuinely take daily. Firmly in that category. So energy was actually respectable. I think that it would perhaps struggle on longer, more intense gym days, you know, a good couple of hours plus of slugging away in there, you know, doing your compounds and whatnot. But I'd say for most people it's more than enough. Obviously, again, take it with a pinch of salt. It's going to depend how deep you are in the pre-workout realm. So yeah, there is that. But let's move on to the focus, which I thought was respectable as well. Again, nothing crazy. It doesn't tunnel you in. You're not staring through walls, laser vision style, nothing illicit, euphoric. But, you know, you've got a pep in your step. You do feel a little bit of mood elevation. You feel productive and focused enough. So, yeah, a serviceable amount of focus to get you through your gym session. And that leaves me, lastly, with the pumps, which, again, were good. Like, again, all of these elements I'm talking about, nothing's outstanding, incredible, world-changing, you know, crazy. But it's also not terrible either. It's good. It's somewhere between average and amazing. So like, we're talking like 6, 7 out of 10 on all of the elements we look for, I would say, on how it feels from an energy focused pumps standpoint. So that's what I'm really trying to get across to you guys. So yeah, the pumps are more like a vasodilated, as you can probably glean from the label, it's more of a vasodilation vascular style pump rather than a filled out watery Michelin Man style pump. But I will say that the pump surprised me. You know, I had chest and triceps today specifically on it, and the pumps were noticeably better than normal. So I don't know if the electrolytes and the focus ingredients and everything sort of come together to get me locked in and get my muscles firing and my body functioning correctly. And it even says on the tub it's very important to stay hydrated, you know, in general, but specifically when you're taking pre-workouts like this as well. And obviously it will help hydrate you in and of itself, because one, you're drinking a load of water when you're drinking it, and two, it's got electrolytes in it and other bits and pieces to help with hydration. So yeah, basically be hydrated and you'll get a better experience. But yeah, everything was serviceable, and overall it performed a little bit better than I was expecting. And we have to remember that it's an average price point, like a bang average pre-workout. And I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but I personally think that it's an above average label. You know, we're talking multiple premium registered trademarked ingredients. Like, most of the things in there are dosed ample or even better than clinical. There's a couple of bits that I'd like to see dosed higher, obviously. We're not winning entirely from that standpoint, but I definitely think that you're getting a good pre-workout for the money. And we have to remember as well, that's no discount codes. That's just buying it as if you're just a normal consumer straight off Amazon. 5 out of 10 on the price scale. So I do think that they've done well to do that. So between avoid, shortlist and buy, I would say shortlist it if you're in the market for a healthy, daily driver level pre-workout that, you know, covers all bases with no negatives, and I mean no negatives. Like, you really are playing a safe bet with this one from that standpoint, because yeah, it feels really healthy and productive. And lastly, if I was to recommend them to do anything, well, let's just go through the label with you now. So I personally don't think that EAAs are necessary in a pre-workout. I've already covered this in the label section, so I won't say too much, but I would say strip them out, then you're saving a bit of money there, which you can then re-inject into the other ingredients in the formula to increase the dosages, or even add new ingredients. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I'd put creatine monohydrate up to 5 grams. Just, you know, why not? If you're going to put it in there, put it in at the max daily dosage. That's just my personal opinion. So that's number 2. The next thing I'd do is I would I'm nitpicking now probably saying this, but I would make citrulline, pure L-citrulline, and just whack it in there at 6 grams. You know, don't do the inflated figure of citrulline malate at 9 grams and then not tell us the ratio. That's another little nitpick I've got. I would increase the acetyl-L-carnitine. I'd like to see that in there at a gram or 2 at least. Choline bitartrate, I'd say get rid of, and, you know, sub in a better form of a choline donor, as I mentioned, like CDP choline. I know alpha GPC is starting to get phased out, at least in the UK. So, you know, basically a better, more bioavailable form of a choline donor wouldn't go amiss. The ashwagandha I don't think is necessary, so I would say, yep, strip that out, save some cost there as well. And to be honest with you guys, I really do think that is it. So, you know, I don't think that's too bad, is it? I've only got a few criticisms on the label, and that's me going by the label. Like, in terms of the real world effects, it was absolutely fine. Like I say, the L-theanine didn't kill it, the ashwagandha didn't kill it. You know, none of these like mitigation style ingredients that they're using held it back, in my opinion. So it pleasantly surprised me, this pre-workout. And as I say, shortlist it if you're in the market for this type of thing. If they take my criticisms on board and they do those tweaks, I really do think it could elevate itself to being a pre-workout that I would go out of my way to recommend. But as it stands now, there's a couple of little things holding it back, but I do think they're definitely on the right track here. It's nice that it tastes good. It's nice that there's lots of flavour options. It's nice that it's an average price point, but you're getting a better than average pre-workout, in my opinion. So there is a lot going for it, and obviously the marketing's pretty cool as well, for if you care about that sort of thing. So there's always that. I think I have covered everything on this pre-workout. If that sounds right to you, do go on and check it out. It's definitely at least worth shortlisting in the realms of looking for a healthy daily driver. Is it perfect? No. Is it good? Yes. That's my personal opinion, but yeah. As always, guys, stay stimmed.